And welcome back to Mixed Media Live. We're back for another Tuesday night of some fun conversation with us friends and talking about our favorite things, which is basically anything art-related, whether it's in music, media, movies, gaming, whatever it may be. We talk about it all, as you know, in very specific and very niche detail. But before we continue, we should introduce ourselves. So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
Hi, my name is Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer.
And my name is Nathan Nestor. I'm a game developer and 3D modeler.
Yes, and this show could not be possible without a few awesome people. That'd be 909 Crime, K Kairos, Post, and Alex Egbert. They support us at mixedmedia.locals.com. For $5 a month, you can go there to check it out. And also go to mixedmediapodcast.com for pretty much every other link, especially the Discord, that you possibly could want. So that's the boilerplate for today. But how are you guys' weeks?
Mine was pretty good. I went to Rutgers on Sunday and visited some friends and stuff, so that was nice. Other than that, I feel like since work started, I've been very busy, so like I haven't like played a game in a long time, which is weird. So, yeah.
Adulting.
Yeah. Actually, I think I did. I played one round of the finals, actually, I think over the weekend. I think. That was it.
Oh, you bought
But I did
Door
buy
Kickers too.
Yeah, I bought Door Kickers too. So, so I guess also part of my week since last Tuesday was we had our first Friday thing. I called it Fun Friday. I don't know. I was just kind of on the spot naming. I'm not sure if that's what it'll be called in the future, but we should probably come up with a name for it. But the Friday thing that I did. I was talking about a game that I'm going to be coding, or I guess making in general, so I bought Door Kickers 2 for research purposes for the game because there's a lot of overlap, and Irving mentioned it, and it was on my wish list anyways for many years. I kind of forgot it existed, so yeah, I haven't gotten to play it yet, but I am excited for that.
Yes, and Kai and 909 Crime are in the chat. Sup, people?
Nice.
Yeah, how about you, Ben?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything like notable, especially in the artistic sense. Not really, but yeah, just kind of a generally busy week. Nothing terribly notable. Yeah.
Yes, nothing technically notable happened for me this week, but I do have an announcement. A crazy announcement. Finally can say it on the show. But I'm going to be a dad. So that's kind of crazy.
I did know that already, so the lack of enthusiasm is kind of like,
yes.
This has been known for...
Yes, I also have heard this already, so congratulations once again.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yes, and it's quite awesome. Awesome in all senses of that word. And I'm a little afraid, so pray for me that I be a good father. 99 Crime says, "OMG, so hype!" Yeah. So baby is due in early September. So
that's weird. Like that kid has like a record of you right now. Like eventually, you know what I'm saying?
That is crazy.
It's kind of weird to think about.
It's so surreal. I don't even process it like properly. What were you gonna say, Ben?
He has a record of what?
Oh, I meant like he can just see, or she, I don't know, he or she can see his father like right before birth, I guess, on the podcast.
Yes,
and
I can
see
show
every single week of it's a lead up. So, yeah.
Oh, yes, the permanent record, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now I have to think about every single thing I do online now and whether or not I'd be ashamed if my child found it. I don't think so, but now you got me thinking.
Maybe some takes are too hot. Some takes are too hot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so just prayers would be appreciated, especially for Steph. This is kind of crazy, kind of nuts. This is adulting, definitely. This is something like that. But yeah, I don't think anything else interesting has been going on, and I've known this for like a few weeks. Like, well, I mean, she's almost 12 weeks along, but you know, I've known for maybe 3 or 4 weeks, so I've had to keep this to myself. So there you go. Nothing else interesting. How about news?
Yeah, so as I said before, I haven't been playing games, and I also have been very disconnected from the news. But I'm seeing some stuff now, which is interesting. So, well, one thing I have been hearing about is Helldivers 2, which is a new game that came out that currently is number 3 on concurrent players. There are currently apparently 198,000 people playing, so that's quite a bit. Right after Dota 2, and after, as in it's third as opposed to second. And then there's some game called Last Epoch, which is 4. I don't know what that is. I've never heard of that in my life. So it looks like it just came out a little bit. Actually, it's hard to tell. It looks like it just got popular at least. But then after that is, of course, Palworld, which is having a pretty steep decline. And I remember it peaked at 1.7 million concurrent players, and now it's at 100,000 concurrent players. I considered buying it. I think it was a good idea to not buy it, given this decline in popularity.
It was a fad.
I mean, Pokemon with Guns is a crazy advertising title, like you had that going on, like just the marketing title. You had no controversy, right? Sort of all press is good press type thing, You had a potential Nintendo lawsuit, which they have not sued them as far as I'm aware, so that probably will not happen. But well, maybe actually, because I guess leading into some other news, I wasn't going to say, but it kind of led it so well nicely, is that Nintendo is suing Yuzu, if I recall correctly. Yuzu is a Nintendo emulator, and Yuzu's been around like for ages. So I guess Palworld might still be in danger. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, I'm not sure the specifics of the lawsuit, like why it would be coming now, since it's been like a very long time since Yuzu has existed. But yeah, that'll be interesting. I'd like to read into that. Yeah. Aside from that, I've just seen this title here. I don't know what's going on. Apparently, PlayStation is cutting 900 jobs and canceling games affecting Spider-Man, The Last of Us, and Horizon developers. So there's that.
Wait, did you say? Wait, repeat it again? Did I hear that right?
The title is, quote, PlayStation cutting 900 jobs and canceling games affecting Spider-Man, Last of Us, and Horizon developers.
Oh, I guess I was confused as to how that affects those people.
Oh, well, Spider-Man, Last of Us, is Horizon also PlayStation first exclusive? I think so. So, yeah, all those will be PlayStation games that, will eventually come out on Xbox and elsewhere, but, PlayStation exclusives for now, when at launch, so.
Oh, is there like a team or something that that helps them get to the last legs or something, or I don't.
Well, I wonder, maybe you get. I'm not sure exactly what the deals are, but they get funding. So I wonder if maybe they just don't get as much money this time or something. I don't know. I mean, but these games are already in progress, so I'm curious. What does that mean? Because surely, I assume there's some contract, right, and there's some amount of money agreed upon. It's not like they can just take that back. So maybe there are some people, some staff that help them out, and so it affected that staff. Not really sure. I haven't read this article at all. So I would say I would be hesitant to say a title, but I don't think there's any way for this to not be newsworthy that there are 900 jobs that were cut at PlayStation. So yeah. Aside from that, there's a game called Balatro that grossed $1 million in 8 hours. What is this game? I saw a video of it actually before I even knew it was popular. I just saw someone playing. I was like, "Oh, what is this?" I am confused. I don't know what it is. It's like some card game that, according to this article, is a roguelike. So I don't know. Think of that what you will. But yeah, that's all the news I have, which is more than I expected, given that I have no idea what's going on. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I also have very little idea what's going on. Like I said last week, trying to consume much less, media for lunch. But I did see that Andre, famous Italian uh, opera singer Andrea Bocelli, and his daughter Virginia released this music video of a duet of them singing something called "Dare to Be," which is apparently going to be featured in this film called Cabrini about.
Oh yes,
I
I've
guess.
heard about that.
Yes,
film.
I actually wasn't aware that was even a film. I found the song, which led me to discover that there's actually a film about this saint coming up. I think it's supposed to be released on March 8th. Yeah, so that's interesting. Interesting, singing with his little daughter. Not that little; she's like 11, I think. But yeah, I watched it. It has some clips from the film, whatever. I don't quite understand what it has to do with the film, but I'm sure it'll work in the film probably. It like conspicuously does not sound like it. You could easily imagine having vaguely religious lyrics, but the lyrics are conspicuously not religious at all. So I guess that probably has to work because even in a film about a Catholic saint, you can't attract people if you're going to be too religious, maybe, or something like that. I don't know, but interesting nonetheless.
Yes, I've heard some behind the scenes lore that makes me think that the marketing campaign might be a little disjointed from the actual film's message, which I find interesting. I don't know exactly how, like what that looks like, in the end, but that's interesting. And the other thing is, Mother Cabrini is actually very important to the region that I'm in, because she was in Scranton for a while, Scranton, Pennsylvania. Which is it's a bit of ways away from me. It's like maybe 2 hours drive away from me north. But kind of just like regionally impactful. I actually don't know anything about her story though, which is probably shameful of me, living here. But, there's
I'll
literally
be
a church
honest,
here.
I don't know either. So
Yeah. There's a church named after her, 2 towns over. So, very interesting. Very interesting. Cool. I will probably be seeing it, so I will give my thoughts on it, however they lie.
see, I'm just I'm interested. Like I said, obviously it has to have some kind of Catholic Catholicism in there. So I'm curious, because the song doesn't sound particularly religious in any sense. So I wonder
Yes.
how that's gonna work.
Yes. Kai's had said, I think a little whiles ago, Balatro or whichever? Question mark.
Whatever, isn't that means?
Whatever.
I think. Yeah, I was referring to Balatro, the roguelike card game.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I haven't really noticed anything because I've been kind of, it's been kind of crazy. So, the only thing I really noticed is that there's going to be a Harry Potter series on TV in 2026.
More. I mean, we just got Avatar, right? The live
I was
action
just thinking
Avatar
that,
just came
yeah.
out, and
Have you seen any of it?
I watched the first 2 minutes of it, and I was not impressed with how it looked. I think the tone seemed right, but I wasn't impressed with how it looked. But I've heard nothing but praise from everybody I know.
Oh,
so
really? Okay.
I don't know.
That's completely and wildly unexpected. Actually, I wonder if YouTube. So we got here's some other news, random thing. We got our first YouTube strike. Not strike. Strikes are bad, or really bad. But first content strike where content was taken down fully.
For what?
Yes,
Yeah.
I was so confused because it was in Nathan's The Finals video where he was
What
reviewing
did I
the
do?
finals. I was like, I was so confused. I was like, and then I saw the title of the video. It said that we used improperly, and it said Gershwin. And I was like, oh, I played a piece of a concert, and I didn't play the music. I just played the video.
Yes.
But I guess you can't even play a snippet. It was like maybe 2 minutes of the concert, just video, no audio,
Yeah.
while Ben was
See,
talking about things.
I I think I mentioned this when we were talking, offline, but I guess I picked the wrong time to do it because it enters the piece. I think the original recording of it, or maybe not the original, but like the first recording of it, enter public domain next January. So I should have just waited a year, and we could have just played like low quality, but like the first recording of it, and not had to worry about anything.
Yeah. Yep. But actually, what we can't get copywritten for is playing the Avatar trailer, because I need to know what this is. So
No way.
I do need to know.
The free chats real quick.
Okay.
Kihara says, referring to Blatro, yeah, it looks like Luckby Landlord plus poker situation. Luckby Landlord is like a slot machine roguelike. I also don't know how that works, but
Okay.
that's what I've seen it described as. So, and then Kikaro says, I think for balance in the universe, the Harry Potter series has to be animated.
I would accept that a lot easier if it was animated. Absolutely. I mean, this is getting crazy. The Broadway show, I think, is still on Broadway. It is indeed, yeah. All right, I'm gonna play this with audio because they can't. This is something they put out there for us to share. So this is fine. So I will play this, unless the soundtrack. Wait. Maybe I'll play without audio. That's what I'm gonna do. Oh wow.
Yeah.
The arrow effect is a little
It's very bright.
See, I'll just say, like, from the 2 minutes to so, like, the very first 2 minutes of it, the bending
wow.
looked kind of weird.
Yeah.
This tone is very serious, which is strange.
Yes. If the opening scene is not in the actual show.
The opening
like-
scene's iconic. That's crazy.
I don't know. So, like, the opening scene that is in this live action version is not in the original.
Right.
I don't know. Then I watched, like, I had to go to dinner, so I just turned it off then. So I don't know. It probably, I don't know whether it begins with, like, the actual famous opening scene from the anime, but I'll just note that whatever the opening that they give is not in the original. It's supposed to. It really sets up like a much darker tone.
Oh no.
So like so as I continued watching, I was like, you know what? Let me put myself in the correct mindset, which is that of a kid, right? But the thing is, like, it still doesn't work. Like,
Is it not like mostly people who like our age who or even
That's what I'm saying,
older,
like-
who love it already, who are watching it? Like, I don't know if this is aimed at people who have never seen it.
that's what I'm saying. Like, it feels like nostalgia bait, as everything is today. But, like, I'm like, okay, well, at the very least, maybe this is for people to, like, enjoy with their children or something like that. But, like,
I don't even know if you can do that. Like, literally, the opening scene has, I can't think of his name, but ever the Fire Lord who starts the war, like 100 years before. I don't think I'm going to spoil anything, 'cause this is, like, the first minute, right?
Mhm.
He, like, burns this guy alive,
oh,
okay? Like, that's not in the original. You never see anything quite that, like, intense in the original show. I don't know if this is what you want to show to your little child, right?
I
Being incinerated by the Fire Lord. Like, the
can't
original would
remember.
not have done that.
I don't remember if this was the last Airbender, The Legend of Korra. I think it was Korra, where the Earth Kingdom's queen got killed, and she got like the air sucked out of her or something like that.
Oh,
I remember at the
yeah,
time
that's
being
pretty
like, "That was
violent.
crazy."
It
yeah.
has to be in Korra, right?
I think it was
Is
in
it-
Korra, yeah.
It's the Earth King in the original show.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, no, it was definitely the Earth Queen. She got the air sucked out of her, via airbending, and I remember thinking, "Wow, that was crazy for the show." So this seems like a step up from that for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
Korra was also, like, just nostalgia bait, too, for sure. Like, that wasn't meant for, like, a new generation of children.
Like the original, it opens up with like Katara and Sokka like making fun of each other and like what fishing for something out in the ice, right? And like
Yes, exactly.
him kind of being like a somewhat of a sexist jerk, right?
I mean,
And
like the first scene is like probably the best scene in the whole first season because the first season is actually pretty trash. Um, if you watch it back, you'll see that they didn't really know where the show was going whatsoever. They were kind of just meandering, like doing like weird little like sitcom esque things. But at least the first scene is like super memorable and like iconic and whimsical and fun, and childlike. I don't know.
yeah, but no, again, I don't know how they actually start that portion because I didn't watch that. But like, it literally starts like the Fire Lord, incinerating this Earth Kingdom guy. So
Yeah. Yeah, it also looks like an expensive show to make. Not it isn't even the thing is like they can't do movie level VFX because that would be too expensive. That would be prohibitively expensive. But they can't do like show level effects because there's just too much VFX needed. So it's got to be like kind of a little bit better than like a TV show, but it's I don't know. It's hard to take seriously. Also, like anime cartoon esque hybrid thing that the original show looked like is such a like an aesthetic for like the whole show's style. It allows it to be whimsical and violent without being bad. So I don't know. It's kind of I don't get it. I don't get the desire to do this.
money would be the
Money.
you know motivating factor.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
I'm sure I'll try watching it at some point, but right now my attention is on Bad Batch, which the first 3 episodes came out last Wednesday. Really good. So Star Wars animation is still good, even if the live action stuff has not been such high quality, except for Andor. Andor is great. Watch Andor.
Okay. Yes, I've heard good things about that. That's like actually a great segue to the non-update on the Gina Carano situation. I've been randomly checking Court Listener, and all that's happened is like all of the what's called foreign attorneys that are coming in out of state, have been accepted by the judge, which is kind of pro forma. So yeah, that's it. So no updates on that front. And that episode, and the one after it, which was what? That was our last episode.
Yeah.
What was our topic for last episode?
Swing dancing.
Swing dancing. Those two actually got a lot of not just I didn't get a lot of views on YouTube, but subs. Both those videos just attracted subs. So cool. Welcome.
I mean, there's certainly I will say there's a dedicated Lindy Hop community out there, and I don't know, maybe throwing the word Lindy Hop around might have gotten some views from that crowd. So
Yes. Cool. Well, that's all I have for news. There's only one more comment. I think 99 Crime says it's aimed at parents who want to bring their kids into nostalgia. I think, yeah, I think so. And before we go on to that segment, definitely smash the like button on whatever platform you're on, and follow or subscribe, whatever it's called on the platform that you're on. It really helps out the channel a lot. Check out our catalog. It's deep, it's beautiful, it's just everything you could possibly want to know about anything, whether it's technique, whether it's advice, career advice, history, pop culture, philosophy. I don't know, literally anything you could possibly think of is in our catalog of hundreds and hundreds of segments. So definitely click our channel, go check that out. If you see anything that you're interested in, subscribe, because almost certainly there'll be more of that to come. So, and the other thing too is if you're new to the channel, our channel is kind of going through a transition moment, and it's pretty great. So as we continue to sort of change stuff and mess around with the configuration of the show, I don't know, be part of that conversation and head over to our Discord if you want to give your 2 cents on how our show should be. But also, bear with us as things change and stuff. Things might be a little shifty. So the next thing that's happening is this Friday on our Discord, Ben will be talking about
and kind of how I think about, or introduction to jazz form. Hopefully, shouldn't be any copyright issues if I play music their Discord and it disappears thereafter. So you will not be recorded. So if you wanna hear me playing some jazz, and explaining what I'm listening for in terms of form and some other things, yeah, you should join me on Discord at 6:45 on Friday.
Yep, be there, be square. Cool. All right. Well, are we ready for the topic of the night?
I'm ready.
All right. Here we. Oh, which one is the correct intro? Oh, there we go. Here we go.
Mixed Media Gaming.
Hello and welcome to Mixed Media Gaming. Today we'll be talking about the problem with shooters, some things that game designers have to deal with that are not talked about all too often, even in the game design sphere. Maybe that's because first-person shooters are kind of generic oftentimes and either are considered made too much or just something that only the AAA should deal with and indie devs don't really deal with. So that's what I'll be talking about this episode. So before I start, let's introduce ourselves. My name is Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and video game developer.
My name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
Hi, I'm Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer.
If you're new to Mixed Media, we do this thing where we have various segments, and all three of us will talk about our fields in turns, I suppose. So today is my turn to talk about video games. Did we already thank the local supporters? I don't remember.
The first thing, yeah.
We did that. Okay, I forgot. Okay.
The first thing we did, yeah.
All right. Cool. Just making sure we didn't forget. So, yeah, the problem with shooters. Now, I'm curious, actually, just immediately, where did this image come from for our thumbnail?
It's AI generated, as usual.
But, like, what is it? I'm confused.
Oh, no. Wait, you don't recognize the franchise that's from?
This is not TF2, is it?
It is TF2. Yeah.
Oh, it is TF2. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a 2. I just realized it's a 2. Is that supposed to be a 2? Or is that supposed to be...
think it's supposed to be a question mark. Well, I don't know.
Oh.
Guess the prompt.
Well, it's a question mark. I don't know. TF2 guy questioning things?
It's a Team Fortress 2 character, scratching head, questioning, gun in hand.
No scratching head, but it's question mark is question
across.
Mark,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, fair enough. Gotcha.
He's wondering
All
what
right.
are the problems with shooters.
What's wrong with me?
Exactly.
Nice. Okay. So yeah, actually, Irving, as a gamer, I suppose. What do you?
Okay.
You played your fair share of your
Yes.
shooters, Battlefront, Battlefield, The Finals, Dead Space, etc., etc. Are there any issues you find that kind of that there seem to always be prevalent, or things that maybe you think that maybe people like kind of accept that they shouldn't in shooters,
Like with shooter mechanics, or like general genre tropes. I don't know, or both.
Both actually.
Huh. Well, one, storytelling tends to be pretty poor in a lot of cases. In some cases, pretty good, but in a lot of cases, storytelling can be pretty phoned in. A lot of times, your character feels characterless because of the way that a lot of shooter campaigns work. Is really just about the arcadiness of it, which is okay until it gets boring. Which happens a lot of times when you're kind of like shooting AI that kind of responds the same way always, and without terribly different situations or whatever. Mechanics, I like realism a lot. So if it depends on the kind of shooter. So if it's like a realism, like on the spectrum of realism, it's going towards the more realist sort of space. Many times, like, those developers don't pay enough attention to, like, finesse. Like, in your controls or, like, in execution. Almost every tactical shooter ever is just poorly executed, but with nerdy ideas, if that makes sense. And then on the other spectrum with arcadey stuff, I hate when things are not ranked, which happens sometimes.
We'll talk about that.
And you just keep getting lasered by people who like spend like 10 times the amount of time in the game like than you do, which is just not fun. I'm not going to practice to play a game. I'm sorry.
Well, here's something interesting. Well, two things interesting. So you say, I'm not going to practice to play a game, but isn't it interesting that if you play like a sport, that's kind of the expected thing, but it's still supposed to be fun.
Well, okay, there's kind of a difference between like casual practice and like okay, I've literally practiced the game, I guess. Like Rocket League comes to mind specifically. Like, I'll drill a few like things, but like the moment I'm bored drilling, I'm not going to like treat it like, like, wow, I really gotta do more sets even though this is painful, or whatever. I don't know. There's no motivation to do that because at the end of the day, I want to have fun. It's kind of the point.
What about progression, though?
Progression?
Yeah, progression.
Most games is kind of a like just grind if it's a free to play.
I didn't mean like I don't mean like progression isn't like items you get. I mean progression isn't just like sort of like just yourself getting better at the task.
That's a good question, and I think it actually depends on whether I'm enjoying the game or not. So, if I'm not enjoying it, then I'm probably not going to put any effort into getting any better at it. But if I'm super into it because they're doing a good job, well, they're just doing a good job, period, then yeah, maybe I'll put a little bit more effort into focusing on like what exactly am I doing, how am I fitting in the overall team, etc. But that all sounds way too intense for what I'm doing. Like, I'm not... I still don't think, like, at the end of the day, I'm, like, pro gamer, like, whatever. Like, I'm just kind of casually playing regardless. So, yeah.
I see. I think that's one of... I mentioned this it was a long time ago, one of the episodes, the Bartle taxonomy of player types, which is, like categories that certain players fall into. And one of them has to do with, like, sort of, I forget what it's called or whatever, but it's about like just the progression of yourself, like getting better at the game. That's what motivates a lot of people. A lot of people, that's not their motivations, right? So it's interesting that you brought that up because it's very person to person. I think obviously it's not like I love the grind to get better, or I hate that. There's everywhere in between. And as you said, it might depend on the game for certain people. Maybe certain genres that people tend to like to get better at more, or it might be just based on how much they're having fun, or whatever it is. But yeah.
Well, I'll say one more thing too, because now that you've got me thinking, because I play a flight sim, a hardcore flight sim, and there's nothing fun about. Learning an aircraft is like literally a studious activity, and I'm not gonna pretend that I know my aircraft, like that. But that's different from a shooter. So I think that has to do with me and genre, right? So like if it's a shooter, I don't really expect to want to be doing that for the way that I play shooters. But I could see if it was like if it was something where there's a community and it was on the more technical end and kind of more nerdy, I guess. I don't really know. More tactical, whatever. I could see myself treating it more like the flight sim, depending. So that probably has to do with personal preferences and stuff.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Well, this is a whole tangent here, but I will say video games are not just for having fun. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's a hot take. But
I'm cool with that.
Yeah, there could be other purposes why you might want to play a video game. I think the vast majority of them are to have fun, but there might be other scenarios. Like the obvious example is if you're playing games to study, you might not actually be having fun. You're just trying to study, right? That's the obvious example. But there are other things like that might be a thing. But yeah, so we touched up on realism and ranks and stuff like that, and I'll talk about both those. Well, for one, somewhat relevant because in the recent era of Call of Duty, I think they removed the compelled ranked based matchmaking actually, which is the opposite of what you said, Irving. They should have that. And I actually did mention this on the podcast whenever that happened, like a while ago. And the reason why people like this actually is because something I will mention, one of the things I have on my list of hard issues to solve is that when you get to higher ranks, a lot of people who are not these people who like to like assert their dominance on people or whatever, right? Who, just trying to play more casually, who are naturally good at the game though, end up not being able to play casually. So they end up playing against people who are also really good, and it becomes like in a first-person shooter, for example, which is very intense on thing. I suppose it varies per shooter, but especially say something like as competitive as CS:GO or Valorant or even Call of Duty, right? Where you can get quote unquote sweaty just by trying to play casually in a ranked lobby where people are very good. It's not really your fault. You're like good. You might not even practice that much. You just maybe you're hundreds of hours into CS:GO and you just naturally over time to get better. And so now you're high ranking and you're stuck there. you can't de-skill yourself. You're just too good. So that's an interesting problem because there's no solution that's known that solves both problems, right? Either you have people playing, well, actually, I'll argue that it kind of is, but so either you have matches where it's not ranked, and so you have the chance that one team might get steamrolled maybe, or something like this, or this could be also a free-for-all game, whatever it is, right? And one person could just dominate, or it could be ranked, and then you have people who are really good at playing, just dying. They might enjoy it, they might not. It really depends on the person. Also with ranked, people who play in parties may be of different rank. When you're playing ranked, it might actually matter that your party member is of a lower or higher rank than you. It might pull you into a game where everyone is a lot better or a lot worse than you. Or in some games, it will restrict you if you're too far apart in rank. You might not be able to play with each other at all. Whereas in an unranked system, that might be fine. Now, you may be saying, well, that obviously makes sense. But I will say that there is one game. Okay, there's multiple games, but there's one game I think of immediately. I think of this game did it pretty well. I think that is Battlefield. How? Why? Well, they were amongst the first to have large maps and large player counts. What does that mean? That means that the skill of the players average out over the entire team. Right, so you can have one person who's really good at the game, but he's just one guy of 64. You'll see him once in a blue moon. For him, he's feeling great. He's mowing down those other 32 players on the other team, right? But if one of those 32 players only dies once from him every once in a while, right? It's like you probably don't even realize he's that good. It's not like you see his name coming up on the saying, "Oh, this person killed you" very often. It's it's a once in a blue moon type thing. This is very different from a game like CS:GO, where it's 5v5. Because it's 5v5, you definitely know who's good and who's not good on the enemy team, and on your team too. But when it's 32v32, it's a lot harder to notice, and the teams average out. The same can be said for, say, Battlefront as well, where there's large battles. All averages out. You don't really typically notice certain players being a lot more dominant than other players. That's not the case. That's not to say that never happens, but it's a lot less common. And so even if you don't have a ranked game, it's a lot easier to, when you have a higher sample size, it's a lot easier to get your average to be somewhere around, the median player skill, rather than if you're trying to take an average of a 5v5 and it's like one player can sway the game so much already, Whereas one game in a 64-player match, that player, you could remove a player in a 64 match and not notice, No one's going to complain in an FPS where it's a 31v32. It doesn't really matter that much. So, yeah. We have a chat. It says, Kikaro says, yes, some types of games I would only play if I had to study them, or if friends wanted to play them. RTS, it's RTS. Yeah, actually, there are many games, such as Valorant, I will not play alone. I play for the social factor of the game. I don't play it because I think the game is that fun. so, yeah, there's that. We also talked about... first off, what do you think about that, Irving?
That makes complete sense to me. Everything you said makes complete sense to me. Yeah, I think I probably generalized too much everything I said, but yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's still a tough problem. It's still an issue with games with small player counts, and not every game is meant to have 64 players, right? So you can't just slap that solution onto every game. Valorant with 64 players is crazy sounding, you know. And it's interesting because I wonder how games like PlanetSide 2, like how that like behavior causes something greater, you know, of like you're really now you have a huge sample size of players, right? So that's kind of crazy to think about, but yeah. I was gonna say something that I forgot. Oh yeah, so you know that solution can apply to all games, but that's what I'm saying. There's a problem with shooters, and there's a lot of games like Valorant. Where I'll say, you know, there's kind of a problem with these games that reasons why I might not like them that much, but I also don't know if there's a solution to these problems. You know, it's like they're like inherently flawed in some way. It's kind of weird to think about that. You know, even if you tried to make Valorant the perfect game, right? If you had all the knowledge in the world, you're like, okay, let's make this perfect. It's like, but it would still kind of suck in my opinion. You know, there'd still be problems. So, yeah. And the sweatiness of Valorant is a big part of the reason why I don't really like it that much. It's like, man, I really got to zone in. I got to lock in when I'm playing this game. Which I don't have an issue with being competitive. It's just a lot of pressure when I'm just trying to chill. You know, usually I'm not the achiever type where I'm trying to get all the points. You know, I'm just trying to relax. So or socialize. You know, one or the other. So yeah. So everything else touched upon realism. He said he likes a lot of realistic games, and one of the issues with a lot of realistic games is convention. So there is a lot of convention in first-person shooters. A lot of standards that just are kind of givens, right? So an example of that is, for example, CSGO breaks this convention, or CS2, I guess is the latest one. CSGO has been out for so long, for like the entirety of my gaming career, not literally, but almost, for such a large portion of it, and I have so many hours on it, I will have a hard time forever calling CS anything other than CSGO. So, yeah, if I ever say that, just know I just mean the latest CS2. So, CS2 is one of the games that breaks convention where you can't ADS on most weapons. But in most games, most FPSs, in a vast majority of them, you can ADS. And for those who don't know, ADS means aim down sight. So what that means is you go from what's called hip firing, which is a strange convention when you think about it, because in real life you're shoulder firing, right? Where you have, if it's a rifle,
unless you're a 1940s FBI agent with a Tommy gun,
unless you're Rambo or something, I don't know,
or you're Rambo,
yeah. So in real life, you would put a rifle on the stock on your shoulder and you fire like that. In video games, you hold it like you are Rambo or a FBI agent holding a Thompson gun, where you kind of just like you hold it at your hip, and this makes no sense. Well, this interesting thing is that it doesn't really show like that oftentimes, visually speaking. It actually does typically show more like shoulder firing. We still call it hip firing. I think it's kind of funny. But yeah, that's one convention, right? Now, in realistic games, there are a lot of conventions that kind of go against the fact that it's supposed to be realistic, right? For one, now, obviously, is a whole spectrum of realism, right? Games want to be either not realistic or entirely realistic, but these are some things that seem to hold a lot of games back, in my opinion. One thing is actually reloading. A lot of games, reloading is very strange when you think about it, right? Obviously, there is the reality of weapons not being able to hold an infinite amount of bullets unless you have like a humongous belt-fed weapon, I suppose, and somehow you're carrying that with you. It's not getting tangled, But in games, things don't have to be like this. So in games that are, say, futuristic but are still realistic, for example, it's interesting that there is still oftentimes reloading. It's a very strange mechanic where you're firing for some time, and at some point, you just have to reload. And you might say, oh, okay, well, this is essentially a timer on your kill, right? It's like, okay, you have to kill this person. Using this amount of bullets is how much you have, to to use, and if you run out, then you run out, and you have essentially a what do you call it? A penalty for that, right? The issue is in so many FPSs, you can get, say, third-partied or double teams. Third-party just means that you're, say, in a 1v1 engagement, and then some other guy shows up and just kills you, or something like that, or being double team is just 2-on-1 or whatever it is, right? Now, you could just be you could be winning the engagement, for example, but you got to reload. You both got to reload. You've been at this engagement for a long time, and some guy with a freshly reloaded weapon just shows up, and it's like, I literally cannot win. Not because of anything I did, because he showed up. That's all.
Could you say that reloading as a mechanic forces a sort of like tactical nature, team-based nature, depending on the game that you're playing? No one plays FPSs that way, but you could say that like you kind of rethink your positioning and what you're doing depending on what you have and how many bullets it can hold, or whatever or plasma darts or whatever it is, right? And then you kind of act differently because of it, and you kind of get punished or rewarded based off of that. Or I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it definitely is game dependent. I think there are games where it makes a lot more sense. For example, if you're playing Insurgency, I think reloading is not really a big issue because getting third party is not an issue. Typically, you die immediately if someone sees you. There is no opportunity to get third party, and also it's a lot slower paced game. The issue with faster paced games is that you're running around, you're going crazy, you're reloading, and it's expected that you're running around and not that you're hiding in a corner to reload, right? Or you could be hiding in a corner and people are running around you and they just find you, right? You just, you're doing your thing, you're reloading, but someone comes around and it's like, hey, this guy's reloading. I didn't even know he was here. It's just bad luck, It's the unwarranted penalty that can really feel bad, So, yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think it's highly game dependent. I agree.
Yeah,
but then maybe this is a tangent that we don't need to go on. But like for games that are team based but super fast paced, is that inherently a problem? Like is reloading enough to solve that? Maybe it is actually. Maybe it is. Sorry, thinking out loud.
wait, I didn't. What do you mean?
I mean, I guess really the question is, are really fast-paced shooters really only about those one-on-one engagements, or do we like team-based aspects of them anyway? Even though they kind of end up being a lot of one-on-one engagements, if you get what I mean.
I think that it depends. There are some games that are made up of more one-on-one type engagements, and there are games where it's maybe more, team battles, like kind of all at once type thing. And there are some games where it's actually a mixture of both. So as I mentioned Battlefield before, and that's another example, right? There are many one-on-one moments, right? But there are also many moments where like there's just a lot going on, and there's it's many people on your team and against another group of people on the other team fighting over a point, for example, right? Mm-hmm. And there it's a lot less about like point, click, and follow them with your mouse, right? And more about positioning and stuff like this. I think in moments like this, reloading is a lot less of an issue because you're already more position-minded, I guess. What happens, like, you're very aware of the presence of other players. Mm-hmm. The issue that happens, though, is when you're in the one-on-one situations, and you may have actually eliminated the other player, but now you got to reload. And some guy you just couldn't have known. You know what I'm saying? He just shows up, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. And you're caught mid-reload. Or you're caught with less ammo than you should have, maybe half a mag or whatever it is. So, this is not an uncommon experience. So, yeah, that makes sense?
That makes sense.
Okay, cool. So, yeah. Now, continuing with realism and stuff like that, there's the visual aspect to it as well. That is an interesting kind of challenge. So we've seen with a game I posted. What am I looking at? What is this? It's Ace of Spades?
Yes, this Ace of Spades.
Oh my goodness, this game doesn't exist anymore, right? I don't think it exists anymore.
I have no clue.
I remember there was a so for people who don't know or people watching on audio only, Ace of Spades is like a voxel shooter that kind of looks like Cube World in aesthetic a little bit, and I don't know, it was fun, I guess, but you had to pay for it, and then the company who made it, I think, got bought up by some other company. I think it went downhill from there.
This? The people who made
Is it Jagex?
Yeah.
Oh, it might be Jag. I feel like that sounds familiar. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Something happened. I think people say it went downhill or something. But someone made like a free to play version of it that was like basically the same thing. I forget what it was called. But yeah, I remember playing that. So I actually I don't know if I've ever played Ace of Spades, but I have played the other one, the whatever the knockoff is. So yeah. Anyways, what was I even saying? Realism. We saw. I posted I think I posted either the game Bodycam or Unrecord. I forget which one. Both of them are very similar in style. Look very realistic. It's like Bodycam footage looking thing. And one issue that a lot of FPSs have in realism is following the convention of the hip firing thing is really weird, and also the ADSing thing is really weird. So when you aim down sights, what happens is like the weapon moves to the center of your screen, which feels natural, kind of, except the fact that, like, that's not what happens. In real life, you move your head to the side, right? And it's not, like, in the middle of your vision. You know? It's like, if that were to happen in real life, well, it wouldn't work because you have two eyes. That's the issue. Whereas in the game, it's one camera. So
there's a lot about shooting that, like, games don't like. There's so many things, like, when you actually, learn to shoot, like, there's just like there's so much nuance that isn't captured because it's not physically like you being a binocular creature causes a lot of things to happen, when you're aiming that are actually really interesting. Maybe VR is maybe the only way this can be ever replicated, which is kind of interesting in of itself too. But like, for example, like when you aim down sight of a rifle, like, you keep both of your eyes open, and what ends up happening is, like, you end up overlaying the sight over the landscape in, like, this weird, like, what do you want to... It's like literally like a screen overlay where it's, like, half transparent. This actually gives you more situational awareness because it's just it's just by force of the way binocular vision works, your left eye seeing past your sight. So, like, your gun kind of disappears more, if that makes sense. And your right eye seeing the sight, so it kind of gets overlaid on top. That's actually how it's supposed to be.
You get IRL crosshairs.
Kind of, yeah. And, like, you end up closing one of those eyes, like your left eye, if you're looking down sights with your right eye. You end up closing it in order to, like, see better. So there's kind of like a focus mode if you want to gamify it, But, like, I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of things going on. Particularly, I think the biggest difference besides that is, like, movement of your body. Like, is, like, when you look at, actually, I'll play it here. But when you look at footage from Bodycam, they do so much better of a job. Like, you can actually see different parts of your gun, depending on how the kinetics of your body are moving. Like, your arms are, like, not just, like, a static...
This is the fastest, like, gameplay of this game I've ever seen in my life. He's going crazy.
Yes. So, there's just a lot of things, like, it's just funny because, like, you think of, like, tactical shooters and whatever, they, like, don't even, like, come close to approximating even, like, some of the basic, like, gun mechanics, like, real-life gun mechanics, just by, like, just physics and optics are just all wrong.
Yeah, now, I mean, the fact that, the game is very clever to make the game use a body cam, because then now it's not supposed to be binocular. Is monocular a word? I don't know.
Yeah, monocular.
Okay, yeah, that's what it is. Also, this guy's really good because this movement system, as I discussed in, I think, the Discord, like, channel, is very weird. And this guy seems to just have mastered it. So,
Yeah.
It doesn't work like normal FPS where you move your mouse to move the gun, not where you're looking, which is really weird because your gun can be pointing in a way that you're not looking. But yeah, which is makes it look really natural. But yeah, I'm very curious to see how where this goes. This might be a whole new generation of
Squad is doing a
games,
similar thing with the kinetics of your body's motion affecting. Is this an FPS first person drone? What?
Oh, yeah, it's a drone.
Okay, interesting.
When you die, you become a drone, so you can just spectate.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't I was not expecting that. But Squad's doing a similar thing where sort of your body mechanics affect your shooting, and then not just you're moving and so your accuracy goes down or things shake or something, and more literally how you move. You can anticipate your movement causing. Oh, sorry about that.
Oh.
You can anticipate your movement causing certain kinetic things to happen, and so you can anticipate them or deliberately dampen them. It's hard to explain, but I assume it's kind of the same thing as happening here.
Gotcha. I gotta check that out.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of just maybe this issue's being now I say issue. It's not literally bad that realistic games, not all of them do this, right? It's fine. It's just an issue you have to think about when you're actually developing the game. It's this doesn't look right.
I like how it says cam disconnected when you die.
When you die.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love video game isms that are still happening where people are just jumping as they run up to the target.
Yeah, you'll never, you'll never be able to patch out human behavior. So
it looks like you can move way too fast too.
You're
ridiculous.
you're a I don't know, some kind of football player or something with all that equipment on you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a cool body cam, a helmet cam.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So movement, hip fire, stuff like that, very wonky. Also, crosshairs and shot placement. So, something that happens with a lot of FPSs, and I think this is a lot more known, especially in the game dev community, is in FPS games, you have a crosshair, or sometimes you don't have a crosshair, but presumably the weapon you shoot, the bullet should hit the target at the center of your screen, where typically a crosshair is placed. Now, in a lot of games, it'll do this. In a lot of games, actually, it won't do this exactly, because a lot of games, the bullet comes out of your weapon. In a lot of games, it comes out of your face. Believe it or not. The reason why it comes out of your face is because you expect the bullet to land where you're looking, essentially, right? Now, this does not geometrically make sense because the gun is not literally cannot, it's not always pointing literally where you're looking, right? It's at a different position, so it has to be angled in such a direction for it to shoot, where you're looking exactly. Now, the angle that it has to be at is going to differ depending on how close you are to the thing you're shooting at. So if you're shooting at a wall, it's right up in front of you. Nice hat. There's a wall right up in front of you that you're shooting at. The angle, if you're shooting from the hip or the shoulder, I suppose, has to be a lot greater than if it's really far, where you actually, if you drew kind of lines, right? If you're shooting at a closer target and this is your vision, looking this way and the weapon's looking this way, right? You have to have a pretty steep angle to hit that close point, but it's really far away. You have a lot of time for those angles to converge on each other, essentially. So the angles don't have to be. It can be pretty shallow when you're shooting at things far away. Now, a lot of games don't model this, and so you just shoot from your face, and people don't notice. So that's all. It works out because bullets go so fast that you can't really see them. So it's some games there are bullet trails, and you're like, huh. That is definitely coming out of that guy's face if you really look at it. But oftentimes, interestingly enough, it'll come out of their face, but gun length away. So not literally from your nose, but just kind of far away, but in front of your face for sure. Some games, this is definitely a lot more rare. The firearm will actually change angles to appropriately reflect where you're looking at. So, which will look very strange when you approach an object and suddenly your arm is pull in a crazy angle change. Not that it's physically impossible, it's just that you wouldn't aim like that. You know, you would probably just move your entire body instead at that point, rather than aiming in such a way. And then the last option is that it actually does come out of the barrel, and the center of your screen is not necessarily where it'll land. So some games will do, some games won't. The games won't really tell you. You have to just figure it out. Typically, the more arcade it is, the more likely it will be to just come out of the center of your screen, or for the firearm to move. And the more realistic it is, the more likely it is that it actually just comes out of the barrel. That's another issue that you have to think about, because in real life you have actual ability to control where you're aiming and where you're looking independently, right? But in a game where you can't do that, when they're both being controlled by the same thing, then what do, right? Either you're looking at where you're looking at where you target exactly, and then it works like that, or it has some inaccuracy. So yeah, that's just an issue you got to deal with. You got to pick one or the other. I honestly don't know, like, if there's a better or worse in most situations. I feel like it's actually a fairly trivial matter. Oh, the one thing that is that it does change a lot in certain games, like for example in Valorant or CS:GO, where it comes out of your face, is that you can be behind cover entirely except your head, and you can still hit something. This matters a lot in those games where I don't like it. It doesn't feel fair at all, in my opinion, because I don't know. One looks unnatural. Like, it's just coming out of their face. It looks so unnatural. I don't know. I feel like you should have to, actually be pointing the firearm at the person in order for it to hit you. So, yeah. I feel like there's a name for that when you see someone's head and they're able to fire you. It's just escaping me at the moment. But yeah, aside from that, there is a challenge in terms of not necessarily game design specifically. Kind of. It's in map design. Because you may want to make a realistic game, or even a non-realistic game that looks, like it's real. But one thing people don't realize oftentimes is that things in video games are scaled in unnatural ways. So the most common example are doorways. Doorways are way too big. If you play a game, you will not see doorways the same way ever again. Doorways are way larger than they should be. You'll know this because you'll never have an issue running through a door. But in real life, if you're running around a place you did not know, you're going to be hitting some door frames. Doors aren't that large in real life, but they tend to be even tall, actually, in video games. And that can be weird to make it look right when you're looking at an overall structure, right? And you're trying to figure out, how do I make this abnormally large doorway look normal on a normal-sized building, a relatively normal-sized building? So, yeah. Right. Aside from realism and things like this, there's also situational weapons. The bane of a lot of people's existences. So, snipers and shotguns, very situational weapons. Most games will have weapons that are modeled off of real life weapons, whether that's very exactly like, this game has an AK-47, this game is an M16, or games that, like, they don't call them that, but they're literally that, just not called that, basically, or games that, the designs are a little bit different, but we are really talking about things that could exist in real life, right? They function the same, and so they have the same weapon roles. Some weapons are, are pistols, some of them are snipers, some are shotguns, some are DMRs, some are whatever, right? Everything in between. SMGs and all that good stuff. Now, when you get to the extreme ends of weapons, so snipers and shotguns, well, in most situations in these games, in a real life scenario, you would not be using these weapons, right? Like, no one's part of a counter-terrorist unit trying to defuse a bomb and is just running around with a sniper rifle. That makes no sense, right? But in CS:GO, CS2 is quite effective. So that in itself is not the issue I'm getting at here. The issue is that in a lot of games, it's very, very hard or impossible to balance these situational weapons. People expect that games will have snipers or shotguns, where snipers and shotguns become way too overpowered. So, for example, in a game that has a lot more open area, the sniper is going to be dominant. Why? The sniper does a lot of damage, and the sniper outranges everything else, right? usually games will try to nerf this, by having either some games have things where you have like a mobility stat for weapons, right? So you move slower with certain weapons. So you might move slower with a sniper versus an SMG, for example. CS2 does this, for example. Or there are certain games where ADSing takes longer with a sniper, or you're forced to have a really magnified sight, which might not be optimal for all situations, right? Mm-hmm. So these do work, but as we know, people get very good regardless at these weapons. And it becomes the point where if you master the weapon despite the nerfs, you become way more powerful than everybody else. The sniper becomes, if you're able to get past the issues with the sniper for certain games, it doesn't just become a long-range tool, it becomes an every-range tool that is better at everything at every range because it has more DPS, that is damage per second, than every other weapon. So, yeah.
I will say also, so like in like a bullet's a bullet, like, right, in real life. So if you're going for realism, right, there's almost no reason in a lot of these games that you have where you even should even have certain weapon classes, because they just don't. They just make the game hard to balance for no reason, and they don't add anything because, I mean, if you're gonna do a low, yeah, if you're gonna do a low TTK game, why bother add something like a sniper rifle where the real life concerns are just not there, like not enough to counterbalance.
In a low TTK game, I think it matters less that snipers exist. It's the high TTK games where you put a whole mag with an SMG and that will eliminate somebody, compared to I clicked one time on the sniper and it eliminated somebody.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I just mean, I guess somewhere in between. So I was just playing Verdun. So I don't mean as extreme as Verdun, but but like something more like I don't know, I'm not sure. something else where it's like, okay, like the main weapon's 2 shots to kill, but then the sniper is a 1 shot. It's like, even there, it's like, why even bother? Like, if you're gonna go realism, like, these weapons just wouldn't be used in most of these maps because they just don't have, like, in real life, your engagement ranges are gigantic if you're talking about warfare, right? Like, it's like you're usually engaging at the edge of your weapon's effective range. Like, you're not usually, like, close quarters, like, rocking people. And in those situations, yeah, sniper rifle has its own role. But, like, these maps, they kind of simulate, like, I guess the most epic moments, is kind of what they're going for, which is fine. But, like, in those engagement ranges, you're not really going to be... You get what I mean. I just don't... Like, you kind of overcomplicate things for yourself for no reason, and you could just also just not have them, and that's fine. But I guess players do expect them.
Part of convention, yeah. I mean, It makes you wonder, like, if you didn't have it, would people, like, care that much, I don't even know that's the case, It's just... they just don't do it. They just always have it. Just like, when they're like making the game, like, okay, we have to have the SMG, we have to have the rifle, we have to have, well, the sniper rifle, I suppose, et cetera, et cetera. But in a game like Insurgency, for example, it feels kind of forced because, like, most weapons are just rifles, like not sniper rifles, like more like mid-range type weapons, and that makes a lot of sense. Is there a shotgun in Insurgency? I don't actually think there is one, because it probably wouldn't be that useful in the scenario. Right? Here's a sniper, actually. It actually is more useful in certain maps than others, where they're like, I'm thinking of one specifically, I can't remember the name. There's like a lot of buildings, a lot of tall buildings you can get up in and stuff like that, where it's pretty useful. And I think, the sniper is still pretty tough because you're confined to that position, and a game with such a low TTK, it's like if someone sees you, it's like, sniper or not, like, it's over. It doesn't really matter. It's 2 shots typically in that game to kill somebody. So regardless, and weapons are also incredibly accurate. So yeah. So yeah, the situation weapons, I feel like a lot of games should not have snipers. Shotguns are more acceptable typically, but snipers bother me quite a bit oftentimes because it just feels like, man, it didn't have to be this way. Yeah. But yeah, final few points here. So some smaller things. So for example, a lot of games, especially games that are team based, will benefit you a lot if you communicate with your teammates. Obviously, whether that be through quick chats or using a microphone or typing, whatever it is. But especially mics being able to give real time data about what's happening. That's specific because you can give real time data with quick chats. It's just not specific, right? You only have so many things you can say. Is really useful. A lot of people just don't have mics, or some situation like that where can't use their mic, whatever it is, right? And it's interesting because it just puts you at a pretty decent disadvantage in a lot of games. Just the issue. It's like, how do you solve that? I don't know. I guess you just don't probably. is the thing, but I'm curious if kind of like how they used to. This is a lot less common than it was before, but it used to be that console or Xbox player played on their own servers, PlayStation players play on their own servers, and PC players play on their own servers. It'd be interesting if it was like, if you have a microphone connected, you're in a microphone match now. I feel like a lot of people who play with microphones would probably enjoy that because their teammates would talk to them now. So yeah. Another thing is cheaters. You have to think about, man, FPSs rife with cheaters every single time. There's no FPS game that is uncheatable. It'll always happen. You have to think about how do you defend against that. There is no real full solution, at least currently.
Is that all
and I don't
games,
really
though?
foresee one. Depends, because a game like Rocket League, how do you really cheat? It's too easy to verify certain things, like, oh, is this car moving like faster than it really should? Does it accelerate more than it should? Right. Although I think the networking of Rocket League, if I recall correctly, is very server sided. So I think you give so you simulate things on your own, but you also give the server your inputs, and then it calculates everything and it sends it to your computer to be like, hey, this is the real state essentially. So it's not like you end up reporting your own player's position to the server. You just report your key presses, so you can't like go faster than you should be able to or something like that, right? Because key presses don't they don't have anything to do with that. And also it's way too hard to make some sort of like aim bot for Rocket League. There actually is a Rocket League AI that exists. Apparently it's pretty decent. But I don't think most people are like running Rocket League AI on their computers. So it's not really a big issue. So yeah, whereas in an FPS, the hack is obvious. It's the aimbot. The fundamental issue of your computer knowing what players are when you're not supposed to. Because, if a person is really far away, even if you don't notice them, your computer should still render them because you could notice them, right? Or and it's just complicated to actually code it in such a way where players who are not visible don't show up, because there's certain things like, well, the player can still affect you, right? Because the player can say throw a grenade, right? And it could hit you even if you're not within the line of sight, because grenades have an arcing pattern, right? They can go over things. So things like that are kind of weird, right? Especially if you're trying to reuse as much code as you want as you can for single player versus multiplayer. It's like, okay, how do you deal with the fact that the player, which might have had, depending on the engine or whatever, might have had scripts attached to it, does not exist apparently. That could be a little bit tough. So you might have to do a lot more coding work to get it all to work. So cheaters are tough, and how you deal with them, I don't know. It's just one of the issues with FPSs. I suppose I just realized I said FPSs, but really this applies to all shooters, including third-person ones, mostly, minus certain things like the visuals and stuff like that. I don't really know why. Well, actually, the thumbnail does say with shooters. Does the title of the episode say first-person shooters or shooters?
Oh, is this first person?
Okay, well, almost there on accident.
The thumbnail does say a problem with shooters, so
Yeah, hopefully people just see that part. To be fair, I did say first-person shooters, but it does extend to all shooters mostly. But last thing, there is innovation and familiarity. So we touched on this before with all the conventions, but there are a lot of things that are expected of you to do as a developer of a shooter, right? And kind of puts you in a box that you might not want to be in. Many people, for example, the new Tribes Ascend Tribes 3 is coming out, and that game breaks a lot of conventions. Those games are few and far between. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Oh, last thing, AI is hard, but I think that's obvious. That's all.
Yeah, AI sucks in shooters for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So Nathan makes FPS when?
After Space Game? I don't know.
Fix all the issues. Give us the most I don't know, heaven sent game.
Well, part of the issue is, with what I just said, is like some of these I don't even know the answer to. Some of these I don't even think there's a solution to them. So it just is an intrinsic error, or not error, it's just an intrinsic problem with the genre.
Right. Cool. Well, one of these days we're gonna get into a mixed media match of some sort, and we're gonna get Ben in there, and we're gonna go crazy. We're gonna go
Some CS2.
We're gonna go pub stomping. It's gonna be insane on some random fun Friday. Just keep your eyes out.
Yeah.
Cool.
Shall I outro?
Yes.
All right. Thanks for watching this segment of the Mixed Media Podcast. Stick around if you're watching live. I don't know who's doing Arguing with Reddit. It's you, Ben, right? You're doing Arguing with Reddit?
I think Irving is.
Oh, Irving is. I have not posted a hot take, so I completely forgot. I have to do that now. So
Yeah, I'll do that last.
stick around for that. And yeah, thanks for watching.
Mm-hmm. Here we go.
Mixed Media Movies.
And welcome back to Mixed Media. If you've been sticking around during this live show, thank you so much for watching and sticking around with us and spending some good quality time together. Also, don't forget that you can chat to be part of the show. I know we always have the same few people chatting, and there's always people lurking. There's always someone lurking. And if you're lurking, just give us a hello or something. We would love to just acknowledge your existence as a fellow human. That'd be fantastic. But if you're unfamiliar with the show, during this segment, we do Arguing with Reddit, which is a segment where one of us will react to the hot takes that others have found for us from Reddit or elsewhere, but typically from Reddit. And today is my turn to be in the hot seat, so I'll be reacting to hot takes about movies. And first, we should reintroduce ourselves. So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella, based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
Hi, I'm Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer.
My name is Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and video game developer.
Sweet. So we'll, as usual, just kind of jump right into it. So this first one's from Ben, if you want to explain.
Yeah, this one is pretty self-explanatory. The person basically just wants to know what you think the best James Bond, or I think it's five. Is it five best James Bond films, or best James Bond film? Yeah, and they list their top five. They say they think that Skyfall is the best Bond film of all time, and they think more than that, it's a top five movie of this century. As a masterclass in every sense of the word. And they also, so for the top five, they say Casino Royale, GoldenEye, License to Kill, Goldfinger, and of course Skyfall.
So the hot take here is going to be that I actually haven't seen a single Bond film.
You haven't seen any
Not
James
one.
Bond films?
Not a single one. Yes, I know you've talked about the music about it on a different episode.
Several times, yeah.
Yes, and I remember around the time that Skyfall came out, there's so much buzz about it that I almost bought a set. But then I was just like, do I have... Was Skyfall like early in college? I don't know why I'm getting that
I think
feeling.
Skyfall was probably like 2016, maybe?
Oh, okay, a little later. Okay.
I can check, but yeah.
Yes. So I remember at the time being like, well, I don't have money for a James Bond set.
Oh. It's actually 2012.
Okay, so a little bit before. Okay, so yeah, I didn't have money. So I remember going like, I really want to, but I want to get some of the James Bond lore at least before I watch Skyfall. and I'll just buy it later. Fast forward to now, I still have not bought that James Bond set. So, is it very likely that it will happen? Extremely likely that I will have a James Bond set in my collection of Blu-rays. Has it happened yet? No. So, I can't really comment on it, unfortunately. But actually, I'll ask Ben, because Ben has you've seen many of them, right?
I've seen a number of them, yeah.
Okay, well, 2 questions. So first, James Bond or what's it called? What's the other series called with Tom Cruise? Mission Impossible.
I haven't seen that, so I can't answer.
Oh, okay. Because they always seem very similar. Mission Impossible kind of seems like a more American version of James
but
Bond.
that kind of that's half the charm is that he's the British agent.
Of course, yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Okay, then second question: you rank them as you see fit.
I would say the best film is Casino Royale. It's actually a good film.
Mm.
I don't know that it's necessarily the best Bond film, though, which is weird. Like, it's definitely the best film out of all of them. But I
Does it
don't know if
like
it's the
not have
best
the
Bond.
tropes or something, or
It kind of does, and in some ways it kind of be anti-Bond too. But it's like it has them, but they're not what's important. Like, I think it's just a good film first, and the Bond stuff is kind of second. I'd say the best Bond film is probably Goldfinger. And maybe on Her Majesty's Secret Service, who was still Queen Elizabeth back then. Yeah, those are probably the top 2. I've talked about the music for both of them, I think. Both really fantastic scores. Yeah, actually, I would say Goldfinger is like, when you think what Bond, like classic Bond at its best, it's Goldfinger. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is maybe a little bit more interesting as a film, and also still very much classic Bond. I guess then I'd have to put Casino Royale, which is, like I said, the best film. I don't know if it's the best Bond film. Other ones, I can think of a lot of Bond films that don't deserve to be in the top 5. So it's hard to come up with what else rounds out the top 5. Maybe Live and Let Die, just kind of over the top. And for number 5, I don't know.
have you seen
I can't think of
Skyfall?
it. I haven't seen Skyfall,
Okay.
actually. Yeah, I mean, Daniel Craig is a good Bond, but he's a very serious Bond. So, like, what is Quantum of Solace, which is the follow-up to Casino Royale? It's, I mean, yes, okay, so we have a plot line that carries through, yay. But it's not a good. It's like it's just almost, not that James Bond's films don't have gratuitous violence, sort of, but like it's always kind of classy. But Quantum of Solace is like, it's like the end of the is too serious in a way, and I don't like. I'm not faulting him. I think it's the way the character is written too. But like, it seems like a guy who just wants, who's just ready to just go out and like wants there to be a lot of blood everywhere.
Right.
Like that's not a good Bond film. GoldenEye, is that the not a great film. Yeah. Gosh, I'm forgetting which one. I've seen a lot of them, so I'm forgetting which ones are which, honestly. Yeah. Is GoldenEye the like which I think GoldenEye is 1995. Yeah, that's the one I really don't like. That's a little bit too. It's also kind of got like weird like graphicness to it. Yeah, I don't know. Like classic Bond, like the the really early films like GoldenEye, on Her Majesty's Secret Service, good. Like they're classy, like James Bond is James Bond, right? He's not necessarily the guy you want to emulate with, but it's, the music is great. Um, yeah, Casino Royale it's a great film.
Cool. Okay. Well, when I eventually do Bond films, you can absolutely expect in good old Irving mixed media fashion that I will be probably talking about the film media and the MI6, which I haven't done yet. So we'll probably there'll probably be a topic almost certainly. So stay tuned for that whenever I get to it. Cool. Which one's actually the one with the weird? The villain with like all the quotables. There's like one like where all the villain quotes come from that are like funny.
Not Goldfinger? I don't know.
Maybe. I feel like it's either Goldfinger or Goldeneye, but I don't remember.
Oh, GoldenEye is not one I would waste my time watching.
Okay.
I'm just looking up James Bond villain quotes. I think it's probably Goldfinger.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, I'm excited.
Let's see. I'm just looking James Bond villain quotes. I don't know. I'll just click up on Screen Rant. 10 James Bond villain quotes that are surprisingly good. Let's see. Spectre. Okay. Not that. Nobody remembers that. From Russia with Love, yes. Live and Let Die. No, that's not a good quote, but it's a good film. No. I'd have to think. I'd have to think Goldfinger. It's just kind of like if you need to watch one Bond film, it's Goldfinger.
Okay. Kai says yes. Oh no, I read that already. Kai says that's a funny way to rank James Bond quotes. Yeah. He also says surprisingly good in quotes. Yes. Okay, so this next one is from me, and it's I only read the title for first and foremost, so I'll kind of be reacting to this situation live. I kind of liked reacting to the situation last time. That was kind of cool, so I picked another similar one here. So this one's from r/filmmakers, and it says, pitched content idea to a lead, and now they stole the idea. So let's figure out what that means. Anyone tried this? I was cold calling to a business, which I've been dreaming of working for. The content manager said that it was some class ideas for their marketing channels and would like me to come over and create the said content in the near future. Now, a week later, they canceled our agreement, and then they created/cloned my exact pitch ideas word for word and posted it on their channels. But they content locked it. Bad production. Didn't even get a chance to produce the content for them. Never tried this before. I feel effed over. How to avoid this in the future without keeping the sales pitch super vague. That is actually really interesting. That's very interesting. So the first thing that came to mind with the title was a lesson that I learned in my business and film class, is you can never actually fully protect yourself from this. Not 100%, but there are things you can do to sort of mitigate it. Because really the worst case scenario is you gave them enough to make something, regardless of what you did in advance, and they alter it in such a way that they've kind of made it their own. It's kind of the worst situation, but also like makes it impossible for you to make your thing. So it's kind of like it's a weird thing where like it's still too similar for you to go pitch your thing to someone else, but they've changed it significantly such they have plausible deniability, and there's no way to like make your case in a way that's that you can more or less guarantee that you'll win the case, because you being the smaller fish, you can't afford lawyers, right? For for something where you have a 50-50 chance of losing. Most people won't take that that chance, which is very understandable. 50-50 is basically like saying flip the coin to spend $20,000 on a lawyer. Like that's that's pretty rough. So it can get really annoying, this kind of thing. But the advice I've always heard was to do a bunch of things to protect yourself. So one of which is to document as much as you humanly can. So one of the ways you can do that if you're pitching a script is to take everything, just take the script if you have a working draft of the script and constantly copyright it. I mean, everything you make is copywritten by the act of creating it automatically. You don't need to do something to it. But the problem in courts is records, right? Can you prove that you actually hold the copyright? And you have to prove that beyond a preponderance of evidence. Did I say that right? Yeah, I didn't. But basically 51%. You have to show 51% chance that I actually hold the copyright to the content made by this other person. If you wrote something and there's no way to verify the date that you wrote it, the other counsel is just going to say to you, well, you wrote that after we created our thing, actually. You're actually copying off of us, turns out. In fact, you have no proof, for that any of these ideas originate from you. So I was told to copyright via the Copyright Office. There's a website. If you Google it, you'll find it probably pretty easily, where you can literally take a bunch of text, plop it into the copyright service, and then pay some fee. I don't know. I feel like back then it was like something like $50 or something, and then get your draft. Now that submission, the date associated with that submission, is basically court proof. Like, there's no way to there's always a way for anything in courts, but it's very implausible that there's a way to impeach the date at which you wrote something if you're, rubber stamping it, with the copyright service, that you wrote it by this date. And the advice I was given in that class also is to do this with drafts. So you don't just do this with your final draft and you're editing, and then you get to... Because what may happen is when you're pitching things, you may have different ideas than what actually came out of the final script, right? But then you've basically deleted those other ideas by writing over it, by editing it. This may be odd because, they might say something like, well, it's kind of like inspiration, there's no defense against, artists' inspiration where you kind of get co-inspired. So, if they might say, well, you came in and maybe some of these ideas kind of stuck in my head and then made a thing based off of these sort of nebulous things that might have been banging around in my head. Well, I didn't actually copy paste your thing, and perhaps there's a particularity of the draft that you submitted or the draft you were talking about that can show well, hang on, how did that particularity end up in there, if you weren't just straight up copying? That's pretty particular. And it's even more particular because the draft I pitched to these other people is actually slightly different. And actually, if you look at the final draft, that's not even in there, and whatever. You might be able to use these facts basically to help you out. So that'd be one sort of thing. And it sounds like they said word for word. That'd be pretty foolish of them and dumb. If they're that dumb, take their money and take them to court. That's probably my not legal advice. Maybe go find a lawyer to talk to who will consult with you for free on it, because word for word is a pretty blatant and stupid mistake. But the question is going to be, even if it's word for word, can you prove that your words actually came first date-wise, right? That's going to be the biggest thing if you can prove that. And you might think, oh, metadata on my digital files and whatever. No, that does not necessarily get you past the issue. Their lawyers are a lot more expensive than yours, and they will make good arguments like metadata can be changed, right? So, and then they'll say I'm going to bring a forensic expert that I paid $1,000 an hour for, and they're going to tell the court that that they can't tell the difference between your file, which has a metadata date on it, and some other file that has a different date, that there's no functional difference. And that's actually true. The bits don't like contain DNA on them or something like this that would help you tell you which one is the real one. So yeah, go through the effort of rubber stamping it if it's super important, especially before a pitch. $50, obviously you can't be doing that every other page you write, but perhaps before every major pitch, when there are major changes, you can kind of put a stamp on it and make sure people aren't doing that. And then your only recourse is going to be legal, which maybe you have a good case. I don't know. Ask a lawyer. There you go. Cool. So let's see here. So, and by the way, I should say, because it's a general art podcast, you can put many types of data in that online portal for the copyright. So if you're doing music, you can actually put audio files in there. You can put PDFs. You could put code in there, right? Theoretically, it's literally copy paste code and drop it in there. You can put whatever you want in there if it accepts that kind of file type up to a certain size or whatever, and then. Otherwise, you're going to have to send in some sort of physical media by mail or something for it to get copywritten. So, it is a tool for you. All right. Last one here is from Nathan, if you want to explain.
Sure, from Ars Movies. The title is there a monologue for a movie so good it should be studied in schools? The description pretty much is the title. He says he's a fan of Shakespeare, so he's talking about iconic monologues, and any monologues that come to mind that you think that should be studied in school?
Absolutely. The first one that should be studied is The Last Vampire, and it's monologue.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. That's an obvious classic.
For comedic purposes.
No, there's a lot of good stuff happening in there.
I mean, there's a lot of great stuff in Shakespeare's comedies too. So
this is true. Yeah. One day I'm gonna do a watch along on a fun Friday of the Last Vampire on Earth, and y'all better show up because you'll be missing out if you don't want to watch along one of the greatest So Bad It's Good film, my favorite So Bad It's Good film ever made. The Last Vampire on Earth. There are so many quotables in it. We've got to do this. So
we missed the Keikaro's chat. He said that's a funny way. This is like from a minute ago. He said that's a funny way to rank James Bond quotes. Surprisingly good. And he said, "Good luck, have fun, gotta go."
Sweet. All right. See you later if you're still here. Yeah. So okay. In all seriousness, though, like what monologues are so good? There are a lot of monologues. They've kind of fallen out of fashion. Mostly because people can't write anymore. That's like they're too scared to write a monologue because they don't know how to write anything. That's my hot take. Monologues are so scary as a filmmaker because you are trusting so many things to be working right by the time you get to the monologue, and they typically happen at the climax or like something like a climax at the very least, but usually the climax. There's some sort of monologue, or the monologue is likely to live somewhere in there. So you're taking a lot of different risks. You're taking a risk on your actor actually being able to perform the monologue correctly, and usually that means they have to be a phenomenal actor. It depends on your writing or whoever wrote it, whether or not you actually perceived that it would actually work properly, that modifications aren't needed or whatever. It highly depends on the edit. Because like depending on how you cut that thing up and what angles you even have choices to pull from, I don't know, there's a lot of things that can kill a good monologue. Depends on your production and everything. So because you're exiting reality, right? And a lot of times in monologues you are in some sort of on the spectrum of realism. You're probably somewhere that's supposed to at least stylistically feel realistic, which is not the same thing as real realism. But like, you're probably in the most movie territory of like stylistically realistic, photoreal, if you want to use a different term, right? Like, and in that setting, a monologue is going to be an obvious departure from that style in a sense, right? You're going to basically do what I've talked about in a Writing 102. Writing 102. If you want to check out Screenwriting 102, I talked about this. But one technique you might want to employ when you're writing is sort of caching everything you've got into a moment. Like, you're going to cache in all of your suspension of disbelief, right? You're going to say, I know you're so absorbed, I know you're so good at, or not, you're so absorbed and your belief is so suspended that I could offer you this really intense bite of this film, and you won't spit it out as being, you won't reject it as being sort of foreign to the rest of the film. I'm going to cash in all the buy-in I've got up until now. You trust me as a filmmaker so much that I can monologue right now. I can literally take the pen and write a little letter to the audience, right? Not easy. Not easy at all, and very scary. So when you find good ones, they're very important. That being said, Shakespeare is the GOAT at this. So even if you don't enjoy Shakespeare specifically, notice what he does in those monologues. Like, what are the contents of them? Because they actually have a lot to tell you about what a compelling monologue may contain, at least some ideas of what it may contain. And a lot of those things are going to be thematically related, which makes a lot of sense, because by this time in the movie where you're cashing it all in and doing something crazy like this, you're trying to connect events that we're watching, plot, with the higher ideas that you're trying to impart, right? You're trying to make them meet, in a sort of explicit fashion, right? Which I think is something that we need a lot more of today. I've talked about it many times on the podcast. We need a lot more explicit sort of like, I'm just going to tell you, just going to tell you what this movie is about, and especially at the end, this sort of like, here it is. I'm laying everything out in front of you. Will you accept this? And that's kind of what Shakespeare does, right? Is he basically ties all the particularities of what happened, the drama, and he caches it all in so that the character can speak for him in the moment to tell you something thematic, right? And that's pretty powerful. So that's not films, of course, but there are a lot of Shakespearean-esque films. One of them is actually one I've written about. I think maybe I talked about it on the podcast. It only comes to mind because I've written about it. But it's 10 Things I Hate About You, right? Which is, I think I've talked about it on the podcast like a long time ago.
I think so.
Yes, there are monologues in that. And it happens at the end of the film, right? In fact, there's not just monologues, they're small. They're much smaller than what Shakespeare would do, but, they're still there. And there's even voiceover kind of adding to the monologue. So that's sort of one good example. I think that's actually an underrated film. Not the best film ever, but it's a quite underrated film in my opinion. But there are others. So another one that comes to mind is Fight Club, which has a lot of... Well, I mean, there's a straight-up soliloquy in the middle of the film. We literally talking at the camera, and at the end of the film, we have a voiceover monologue, which I really don't want to spoil, so I'm not going to talk about it too much, but that might be a good example also, although it would not be appropriate to show in schools at all, not even close, so maybe that's a bad example from that perspective, but from a studying perspective, regardless of age or if you're older, that would be a good one to sort of look at. In fact, perhaps even Fincher films. It depends. But they're all over the place, basically. You can find go to the end of any movie. If there's a voiceover that's going to go on and on, Great Gatsby, right? That's going to be another example where there's a sort of there's a literal soliloquy at the end of the film, which is very famous. It's a poem, and that's doing exactly right. It's taking all the particularities and kind of, thematically condensing them into a poem. So yeah, just take a look at some of your favorite films. So many of your favorite films are going to have a monologue or soliloquy or something of that nature at the end. And I think they all kind of have they share a lot of the same qualities in that they kind of, they peg the ideas down in the viewer's head. So, yeah.
What do you think? You still haven't seen any Tarkovsky, have you?
No, I have not seen yet.
No, I feel like a lot of his films are just almost entirely built up of monologues. I think maybe the most notable, I could be wrong, there are a lot of notable ones, but maybe the most notable one to me is the from Andrei Rublev, the I don't know what you call it, like the Passion of Christ and the Russian suffering of the Russian people. That's pretty early in the film too.
Dang.
It's great. I think I haven't seen Song to Song since
those have a lot of those.
But I think I think Song to Song ends with a pretty strong one.
Yes.
If I recall correctly.
Yes, I remember that. I remember almost having chills with her, the main character's sort of monologue at the end of it. The other one, my favorite Malick film, what's it called again? To the Wonder. To the Wonder also has a much slower paced. It's kind of separated by visual imagery, but there's a line here, then some visual imagery, and then a line here. But it basically sums up to a monologue, at the end of it as well. Definitely check those out. Highly recommend. Very good stuff. I still can't get over the final shot of To the Wonder. It haunts my mind, with the monastery reaching up out of the muck. It's just such a powerful image. She's dancing in the muck and looks into the glare of the tower, and sees hope. Dang, just beautiful. Anyway, so that's it. That's my arguing with Reddit segment. If you disagree with anything I said,
I gotta add a monologue.
Okay, go ahead.
This is definitely gonna come out of left field because why would anyone ever say this? But it is the opening monologue to get this. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. The stuff that Davy Jones says. I don't know if anyone remembers that. Probably no one remembers that.
I don't remember it. What is he saying?
It's not even. He's talking about because it's part of his lore, right? This is certainly not a spoiler, right? It's just first off, it's in the beginning of the movie. It also is a really old movie, but how people can join his crew and they live. I forget how long the contract is. It's 100 years like that. I forget. They become immortal essentially for 100 years. But they have to serve him, and they become weird sea creatures. But essentially, at the start of it,
mentioned this a couple weeks ago on our show.
Did we? What?
We were talking about Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, we were talking about his deal or something for some reason.
Are we?
Yeah.
Was I there? We're talking about his deal.
Yes.
I don't know if we mentioned the monologue, but
no, I don't think we mentioned the monologue.
Well, yeah, he has that deal, right? And first off, this is a crazy scene for a children's movie. Basically, what he's saying
they
is
wanted
that,
to be even more serious, Nathan. That Disney wanted it to be even. They wanted it to be.
It's the second movie. They should have realized. I'm all for the scene though. But then immediately afterwards, Jack Sparrow appears in it as a comedic relief or whatever. It's not immediate. It's it's a lot less serious, I guess. But what he's saying is, he says something along the lines of, "Do you fear death? Do you fear that dark abyss? Life is cruel. Why should the afterlife be any different?" I'm just saying random sentences from it in a somewhat ordered way. He says something like, "Join my crew and postpone judgment." Crazy topic.
We did talk about this a couple of weeks ago.
Now it's not necessarily the monologue itself, isolated, that makes you think, oh, it was really good writing or something like that. It's the introduction to his character that I really like. First off, CGI is amazing when he's not moving, especially when he's like when he's more stationary. When he's just talking, it's fine. When he moves a little bit, it's a little bit sketchy.
I think it's the context we were talking about it last time too. Like, why is this CGI?
Oh yeah, we did talk about that. I remember now. Yeah. The CGI of the end of that movie when what's that guy's name? Something Beckett or something. Some title Beckett. The British guy who's like the antagonist.
Oh, yes.
The ship gets blown up and it looks crazy. It looks insane.
It looks so good. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
That looks good throughout the entire thing.
That might be a mixed practical and VFX, by the way.
Oh, almost certainly. It's too good. The cannons like flying in slow motion. Oh man. But anyways, yes, the introduction to his character, right? It's like you go from Pirates of the Caribbean isn't grounded, definitely not. But you go from the first movie to the intro to this, and it's like, oh, like this new sea creature faction. It's like there's a lot of mystery behind him. And he's like saying this stuff, and it's like, what is this guy talking about? It's like, this is like crazy stuff he's saying right now. And he has this cool character design. I love his character design, and he looks really good up close when he's like relatively stationary. I don't know, man. It's just like. And the acting by all the characters is really good. It's like, I don't know. It's a good opening scene.
You made me want to watch it again. Yes, I do remember having. Yeah,
I'll post a link. To the scene. After rewatch it, I was like, yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah. One parting thought is a few synapses kind of fired in my head. We find monologues in scripture as well, which is very interesting, and. They kind of have a similar function too, where like you're kind of taking. It depends, but like a lot of times you're kind of taking the particularities of the moment, and you're literally ascending, like like you're ascending to the sort of heavenly level. The one that really comes to mind is Mary's Fiat, right? Is like. That's basically a monologue, it's not basically a monologue; it is a monologue, and it's like the whole the story kind of everything kind of collapses into the from the reality into the sort of like supernatural, like ultra level of what's going on. A very similar function, actually, which I'm sure is not an accident. So, yeah, humans.
Interesting too that like if you ever get into liturgy, the hours, like the major hours in the Catholic Church and presumably also in the Anglican Church, the morning it's like a canticle Zechariah. You say in the evening it's the Magnificat, and then at night you say the. I don't know what you call it exactly, but Simeon, like now you can let your servant go in peace. I've seen Jesus. Interesting that that's part of the church's daily prayer to say all of those every day.
Yeah, for sure. See, monologues can be more than just like entertainment. See, we brought it to like the biblical level. But no, I agree with all of what y'all are saying. So before we sign out, should say an extra thanks as usual to 99 Crime, Alex Egbert, K Kairos, and Post for supporting us at mixedmedia.locals.com. You could join them by going to mixedmedia.locals.com, supporting us for $5 a month. The other thing that's awesome on there is you get access to this live whiteboard, which currently is not very used, and I think that's a shame. But as the show changes, maybe we'll make that more of a thing, less of a thing. I don't know. This is kind of an open question that you can let us know what you think on the Discord, which the link to that is in the description. You can talk about everything that we've been talking about all week, and we can have a lot of fun. So with that, I think Ben is frozen. Is Ben frozen?
Oh no!
Oh yeah, you were frozen.
You're back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. But with that, we will see you next week at 8 p.m. Actually, before then, Ben.
Yeah. 6:45 on 6:45 p.m. on Friday. I'll be on on Discord, and sharing some jazz music and some basic analysis of jazz form and other things that I kind of listen to on the surface level of music. You join me as I can kind of compile some more data. So, yeah.
Sweet. So that's Discord only. If you miss it on Discord, it will evaporate and never exist again. It's interactive only. Come to our Discord. It'll be a good time. All right. See you next week or on Friday.
Yep. Thanks for watching and listening.
Look, tell a man no trouble. I don't want beef, man. I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then dead I'm on side. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype, nah. No need for the snoozing. Big whip outside, I'm cruising. Big stick inside, no losing. Better watch out for the snake and Judas is. Don't ask them who this is. I bet they know what I'm moving in. I bet I show it into a dim. How you hate and then lose again? How you hating my vibes? Why you wasting my time? Getting hype on my line. Tell a man I don't want feedback, I just want relax. Brand new whip, two-tone, I need that brand new hit. You know, like lean back, brand new bits I live in. We pack, man, you never gon' like us. Get them on sight now, let them on light. That way they know I'm more righteous. Look at my life, I'm living alright. I'm nice, you know I'm alright. Cause looking like Christ, no need for the hype or fight or telephone vibe.